We are here with part 3 of our starting pitcher rankings review. And what do you do with names like Joe Ryan, a rising star like Spencer Swanlenbach, and a veteran like Sonny Gray? We are talking those names and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ahne, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ahne. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you notifications every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And lastly, but most importantly, draft season is right around the corner. And if you want that competitive edge against your league mates, you need to join Matt and I on the Subtext platform, where you're going to get text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in these 30-minute episodes. And guess what? This time of year, you're getting our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, bust, and so much more. And all right, Matt, I can't believe we're finally here. Starting pitcher, ranking review, part 3. Got some really great names. And, as we get deeper into the starting pitchers, our rankings start to veer off. ADP starts to look a little bit crazy. I think we got to let people know where we have these guys ranked, why, and, where we are against ADP. So, Matt, why don't you take it away, brother?
Yeah, so at 25, I got Zach Gallen, then Justin Steele, Max Fried, Logan Webb, Framber Valdez, Pablo Lopez, Freddy Peralta, Joe Ryan, Sonny Gray, Kodai Senga, Roki Sasaki, and Spencer Swanlenbach. Dom, how about you?
Yeah. So, once again, always got to preface this at the top. Matt and I's rankings are geared towards 5x5 head-to-head categories leagues. That's what we specialize in. We always try and give you a little bit of a points league twist as we talk about these guys too. But my starting pitcher rankings from 25 to 36 go as follows. I have Jack Flaherty at 25, Shane McClanahan at 26, Joe Ryan at 27, Jacob deGrom at 28, Spencer Schwellenbach at 29, Hunter Brown at 30, Shoto Imanaga at 31, Spencer Strider at 32, Justin Steele at 33, Max Fried at 34, Sonny Gray at 35, and Bryce Miller at 36. And all right, Matt, as you look at my rankings there, I know you definitely got something you want to pick me apart about, or at least somebody you want me to explain my side of the story on. So as you look there, who do you see that kind of stands out to you?
I'll exclude everybody we've talked about over the last 2 episodes. So if you see somebody on either one of our sides that's too low, please refer to the last 2 pitcher episodes, since we're at what do you call it?
Part 3.
Part 3. So let's put it this way. I see you have Justin Steele significantly lower than me. Can I explain why? Can you explain why?
So what the funny thing is too is I felt like I finally turned the corner on Justin Steele this year. He's been really consistent over the past few seasons. And I guess my ranking kind of speaks more to the talent above him than how I think of Justin Steele, because I truly think he's going to have a really strong season. ADP on Steele at the moment, if my laptop actually wants to work with me here, is actually SP37, pick 119. So Matt and I are actually both above ADP by actually a decent amount here. Matt, you're actually quite a bit above ADP here on Steele. I'm a little bit there too. So I think we'll both get some shares of Steele. I think we have them in the same range. You're talking that SP3 kind of range. And I can't fault you for having him where you do. I love Justin Steele. When you get to this point of your rankings, your draft once again, and you're looking at your SP3 potentially, it's more about what's fitting into your rotation. I think I actually have Steele, Fried, and Gray all right next to each other. I think they're all kind of great rotation stabilizers, as to where they're not going to blow you any away, but they're going to give you the good ERA around that K per 9, a good whip. And like I said, I actually really like Justin Steele. So like I said, it's more about the guys above him. I think the upside of the guys like a Schwellenbach and Hunter Brown versus just the stability of a Steele. And if that point in my draft I've taken some more upsidey guys or some injury prone guys, I'll take the Justin Steele. He'll be moved ahead of the Hunter Browns and the Schwellenbachs and guys like that.
So I get you, and I mean I understand. Like neither of us were bought in on Steele at all last year. We kind of were like, hey, we need you to see it, prove it. He actually goes out and kind of repeats exactly what he did, and it's like, okay, cool. Then why is he being so buried? I guess is the question. He actually had a really good season back to back. Now, I mean, this year 307 ERA through 134 innings. Obviously, we would have liked to see the health a little bit on the better side, but 135 strikeouts to boot with a 109 WHIP. The year before, 306 ERA through 173 innings with 176 Ks. Pretty much just did exactly what he did last year. Obviously, just health concerns. He was short 6 starts, and you know it's not like under the hood is bad either. His xERA was sitting at 274, which is a quarter of a run less. Then you look at his x batting average was 212. His fastball isn't going to blow you away at the velocity, but it's still good. It gets great movement. And his average exit velocity is sitting as low as 86.9 miles an hour. And you know what? We see it in the strikeout numbers. He doesn't really strike guys out. He's kind of like a K per inning. So that's why the chase and the whiff and the Ks aren't in the elite category, but he doesn't allow guys to barrel a lot, really, dampers the hard contact and produces ground balls at a pretty decent rate. He has, a good amount of pitches too, four-seam fastball, slider, sinker, changeup, curveball. Last year that X batting average on his fastball was a 230. His slider was a 182. The sinker got hit around a little bit, but he really did lean on that four-seam fastball and that slider and had great success. I don't see how he can't repeat it because it's the same thing as last year. Mainly there was improvements in the four-seam fastball because it went from 278 to 230. You like to see that step forward, and then the slider was still just as dominant. So I think that this is repeatable. I think that he can, have similar numbers, even finish with a 323 ERA, a K per inning, and a decent whip because he doesn't, walk guys like crazy. He deserves to be higher. He's a roster stabilizer, like you said, and you know he's just like a Logan Webb, a Valdez, and a Sonny Gray. These guys are just a matter of upside. Steele is exactly what you want for your roster. He's a great SP3, and there's a lot of question marks from 25 to 36. And if I've got these high upside guys that maybe have a little bit more on the faultier, ERA side, Steele is a perfect candidate, and I feel he'll have a better finish than most of the guys below him on my rankings. So I'm all about him this year.
Matt, one last final thought here on Steele for the people. So I think some of the concern with Steele, why people might have him a little bit lower. So last year he had the elbow issue, kept him out a little bit. And then in 2023, same arm, left arm was a forearm thing. So, left arm is looking a little bit, sus. But guess what? He's pitching in spring training. His first outing, he went 2 innings. He gave up 2 hits. He struck out 5. Love to see that. So he struck out 5 of the 8 batters that he faced. So Justin Steele's looking good going into 2025. And bless you, Matt. So, Matt, I'm going to throw out the name that I want to talk about.
Real quick. So before we say that like it's an elbow problem and we're saying it's sprained or anything of the sort, it's just tendonitis, which is a little bit better than a sprain. If I start hearing sprain, then we start worrying about TJ. That's when I would start having the hesitation around that elbow. That's why I didn't bring it up. If it's just tendonitis, my guy is just getting up there in innings, and I think has to just get used to the workload. Look, you look at his workload up until the last 2 years, 119 in a single season and then 57. So it's just a buildup. And you know what? Until I hear sprain, I ain't concerned. But
1,000%. I'm with you on that. And that's exactly why I was trying to ease the people's minds and saying, hey, listen, if you have any concerns, the guy's out there. Cubs aren't worried about him. He looks great. He's striking guys out. He looks like almost in midseason form already. So I do love me some Justin Steele. But Matt, I'm going to throw the name out, and then the people are going to have to wait a little bit to hear your thoughts on this guy. So we didn't talk about him in the last episode. I believe I had him ranked at 22. You have him at 31. Mr. Steady Freddy Peralta. Sometimes he's anything but steady, though. So, folks, you're going to have to hang on and stay locked on for Freddy Peralta and more coming up next.
And okay, so looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats that help keep you full longer. Personally, I love the no shell variety, and truly I do. It's the perfect snack for a grab and go snack, a busy day at work, and honestly, just, sometimes you really just don't feel like cracking them shells. Whether you're into snacking at my desk on a road trip or just a quick protein boost, there's always good to go. And if you just love cracking open a shell for that satisfying crunch, which truthfully, sometimes you do. You don't mind it. It's pretty nice. It's something to do at the bar. And the in-shell option is a classic favorite, right? Who doesn't love doing it? Get snacking, get cracking with snacks that pack a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And you know what, guys? Look, you want to win your leagues, there's only one way to do it, and that's becoming a member of the Diamond Club. Straight up, links in the description below, and you're doing yourself a disservice by not joining. Okay, we have our redraft rankings, and they are tiered. We have prospect rankings coming out very soon. I promise. I promise I will have it done. On top of that, you'll be able to ask us questions. Our extended sleeper breakout busts. Look, you probably only get about 5 each category. Dom and I have lists of like 13, 14 guys, and you're only going to get a small sample size of the guys, and it's ever growing and changing. So these are the things you want to do. And plus, when you get the direct contact to us about keeper questions, draft strategy, team construction, even rating your draft, you're going to want to get on that action over at the subtext links in the description below. All right. So, Dom, here's a question.
Yes, sir.
Freddy Peralta. And why do I have Freddy Peralta so low? And, it almost feels like a disservice at the end of the day. But at the same time, I feel like I just know who Freddy Peralta is. And, he's a guy that has a crazy upside that can get a bajillion strikeouts if he really dares to. And, gets a decent amount of innings. But the ERA at times just get a little shaky. Yes, he finished with a 3.68 ERA, but it wasn't all pretty to get to that 3.68 ERA, and quite honestly, and that is where things get a little upsetting, right? Like, you draft this guy, he's, as an SP2, and it's like, okay, it's not the safest option, and you know what? That's where it gets a little rough. And I look at it, right? The whole first half of his season, he had a 4.11 ERA through 103 innings. And, the strikeouts were great. 130 strikeouts, those 103 innings. Wonderful, right? But that 4.11 ERA, which means he had blow up weeks. April, he had a 5 ERA, and that was a really bad month. And then May, 3.36, which, yes, that's good, but there were some bad starts in there. And then the rest of the season, he was cruising. Don't get me wrong. But I just, I don't want to risk it because there is a world, and we've seen it in the past where he has just been up and down all season long. And, the ERA is just a little bit more on the volatile side. And I prefer a little bit more conservative approach with my SP2. Hence why I won't take him there. The year before, 3.86 ERA, which isn't wonderful. And he was right on par in his FIP for both for this year was 4.16, the year before 3.85. I am just prefer him as that SP3 than that 2. Him as a 2 just makes things too uncertain when I can get a lot of safe choices that also have the same upside, if not better.
Yeah, Matt, you great breakdown on Freddy Peralta, and I think the perfect way, and I know we brought this up a couple times already, but I'm going to preface it again just so everyone make sure that you guys are listening here. You could jumble up these names depending on preference. And Matt, that's a great breakdown on Freddy Peralta. He's not somebody that's super consistent. So once again, if you're looking, by the time you're drafting your SP3 and you've gone a little bit risky up top with, your 2 first ones, maybe you do want to take the Justin Steele over the Freddy Peralta. If you've played it safe, hey, you know what? Freddy Peralta can be a guy low to mid threes ERA, big strikeout numbers, and the whip could be solid. But that's just not a certainty at all, especially, Matt, you broke down the last 2 seasons for him. ERA has been elevated. The strikeouts are still really good. And, the whip last year was bad, but Freddy Peralta is really known more for his whip. I think I honestly think there was something going on with Freddy Peralta last year. He did make 32 starts. Maybe he was trying to pitch through something. He's going to be 29 this year. I still think there's upside for one really, Cy Young caliber type season from Freddy Peralta. If we don't see it this year and he's kind of just the same guy again, I think he just falls down my rankings big time going into 2026. But I'm hanging in there for one more year with Mr. Freddy Peralta, one of my guys. But Matt, once again, I don't know if you see anything that stands out to you in my rankings or if you want to take this conversation in a different direction. What are you feeling, my brother?
So I see you have Hunter Brown in your top 30. We have him 10 spots apart, just to give a little inside baseball to the next starting pitcher episode. So it's a bold statement to have Hunter Brown, who I think is very talented, to be slotted in as an SP2. Can you maybe talk me up to maybe bringing him up into the top 36? Because, it won't take much, but at the same time, I need to know why, because there was part of last year's season that kind of made me feel not as great to make him an SP3.
Yeah, so let's do some Hunter Brown talk. This is a fun name to bring up. So going into 2023, I think, myself particularly had Hunter Brown pegged as a breakout. A lot of other people did. Especially coming off his, prospect hype and how good he was in the minors and his, short showing in 2022. It was only 20 innings, but he looked fantastic. I had Justin Verlander mentoring him, took kind of that Justin Verlander release point his pitching mechanics, and we saw great success. So we had every reason to believe, but then he had 31 games, 29 starts in 2023 with a over 5 ERA. Strikeouts were there, wasn't great. Then Hunter Brown last year as a 25-year-old, of course, with those Astros, made 30 starts, 3.49 ERA, 170 innings, 179 strikeouts, a 3.58 FIP, and a 1.27 WHIP. I know the whip's a little bit elevated, but you know what, man? Sometimes it takes a little bit to work on that control. We saw you could call it a breakout. We'll call it. We saw the breakout last year. I think there's even another level that Hunter Brown could take this to. Go back and look at his minor league track record. He's one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball. This could be a guy. He could take the leap. 185 innings. In 2025 could give you that mid to low threes ERA. I think the strikeouts could take a big leap. The whip, he might be a guy who maybe a little bit higher on the whip end. But you know what? I think the Astros are going to be decent for wins. Not great, but decent. He's got to win, 13, 14 games for you. And I read you off the rest of the numbers. I think he can do. I just think there's a lot of upside, and he finished the season pretty strong last year too. So I think age 26, Hunter Brown, former top prospect. I think the stars are just going to align for him in 2025, and he's going to have an even better season than he did last year.
So, I agree. For a lot of what you said, I just don't know if I can trust him as an SP3. That April was really rough. He had a 9.78 ERA. Bounced back.
He did cruise the rest of the way, though. He cruised the rest of the way.
He did. If you look at the overall numbers for the month versus those blow up starts, he had big blow up starts. And on top of that, the whip also is super high. A 1.27 ERA on a season is definitely pointing to like a guy that can kill your week at that point, and I think there's upside. I think he's incredibly talented, but to take a shot on a guy that we're seeing stepping into season 3 for him as my SP3 might be a little dangerous. And it's just, I can't seem to pull the trigger. I think he needs to move up. I don't think he's the 40th pitcher anymore in my rankings. But I don't know if I'll let him crack the top 36 because I feel like the names I have here, they can't go any lower. Like there's guys I could see shifting around, but to get him inside of the top 36, I just can't see me trusting him over any of these guys at the end of the day.
I got one last Hunter Brown stat before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
So his last 9 starts, Hunter Brown, 54 innings, 53 strikeouts, a clean on the nose, 1 whip, 2.17 ERA, 2.82 FIP, and batters hit 194 against him over that time. I think he's just taking those steps that we need to see from a young guy like him. And, we're not always sometimes we're used to being spoiled when guys come up and succeed right away, like a Spencer Strider. But you know what? Hunter Brown may have taken him a little bit, but I think we see him be very, very successful again in 2025. But with that being said, before we move on and we break down a few more names for you, just lock on with us as we take a quick break. And all right, Matt, let's jump back in here. And, you kind of threw the last one out. So I'll jump in here and kind of find a name that I like. You know what? We kind of were talking about him off air, and he's a name that I feel like we haven't spoken about enough. And I don't think the industry is talking about him enough. And it's Spencer Schwellenbach. Had a very, very strong showing as a rookie last year. I know you were talking about potentially moving him up a little bit. So what are your thoughts behind Spencer Swanlenbach? You got him at 36 right now. I got him at 29. So what do we do with a guy like him?
Yeah, I mean, we're about 5 spots off. And you know what? I look at him and I go, man, this kid is one of the most talented pitchers I've seen in a very long time. And I go, how can I get him higher in my rankings? And I think I can. I think it's attainable. I think it's probably going to happen by the end of the show. The reason behind my rankings was I just needed to see a little bit more. Spring training was going to be the deciding factor. It's a week into spring training, and you're already hearing the Schwellenbach woes of the incredibleness. I think he's going to shoot up my rankings. He already had a fantastic 2-inning outing and really looked phenomenal. So now I'm ready to move him up on top of everything else. Now, here's the supporting argument, right? Like, again, this isn't his final place for me. This is just, hey, I didn't have time to move him up yet. So last year, just so you understand what he did in his short little stint, through here, literally 21 starts, 123 innings, 127 strikeouts, a 3.35 ERA with a 104 whip. Like, fantastic. The underlying stats are absolutely incredible. Great movement on all kinds of pitches. xERA was at a 3.44. Not much different from the ERA on the season. Fastball sitting almost at 96 miles an hour, pretty much. Average exit velocity as low as 87.6. He's getting guys to chase like an absolute animal, creating the whiffs, getting the Ks, not really walking guys, really suppressing the barreling. The hard contact needs a little bit more work, but as long as they're not barreling and he's able to blow past them, then it's something that he could still maintain success. And if he can work on that, it gets even better. A little bit on the mid-tier in the ground ball, would like to see a little bit more, but his pitch mix is so filthy that I feel like the reason why he doesn't produce as many ground balls is because it's either he's putting them away and he's getting a strikeout, or they're getting grounded out. Let's put it that way. It's very rare that the dude is not producing. He has a 4-seam fastball, slider, cutter, a curveball, split finger, and sinker. And these are absolutely bonkers. And he does a pretty great job at mixing them up too. 28% on the throwing the fastball 28%, slider at 19, the cutter at 16.8, the curveball at 14.6, the split finger 12.8%, and the sinker not so much at only 7. But he gets putaways with all these different pitchers except the cutter. It's kind of crazy, and they're all great pitches. Something he's really mastered. The control is there, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do. One more spring training, and I have a feeling he might jump into my top 24. I'm super excited for the kid. I just need to see a little bit more. So this is the beauty part. We're not even in March yet, and these rankings are not solid yet. Any moment, he's a guy in my ranking that can move up. I'm super excited for the kid. Can't wait to see what the next outing looks like for him.
Yeah, man, I'm in the same boat as you. He was a guy last year. I was screaming from the mountaintops for everyone to pick him up, and if you did, like I did, he probably brought you some fantasy glory. Spencer Swanlenbach's last 12 starts last year. It all started against the Mets on July 27th last year, right? He had an 11 strikeout, 2-hit game in 7 innings against those Mets, and after that, as I was going to say, his last 12 starts, he proceeded to have a sub-1 whip, 2.47 ERA, 2.89 FIP. Batters hit 210 against him during that time. And once again, it was 73 innings and 78 strikeouts. Schwellenbach, you're going to see, I'm going to say now, you're going to see him on the breakout episode for me, for sure. I'm moving him up a little bit too as we speak. Probably, I don't know if he's going to crack my top 24, but I definitely could see him at 26, 27. I love him.
Yeah, man. The more I look, the more he's looking like he should have been on yesterday's episode.
Yeah, no, he's going to be one of the breakout stars for 2025 for sure. I love me some Spencer Swanlenbach.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now let's switch it up. We did it for the last couple episodes. Now, and I feel like we kind of already kind of segued with Schwellenbach because we both kind of enjoyed him. But now we're in this range. We're talking 25 to 36 or SP3. Who is your favorite SP3 to get out of these guys if you can get them? Who do you find drafting the most?
Besides Schwellenbach, because Schwellenbach probably would have been my answer to that question. But I want to throw out a name we haven't spoken about. I'm very, very high on this guy, potentially the highest in the industry on him. Love me some Jack Flaherty, man. He's coming off the board as a SP39, pick 132. So actually, I'm not crazy far off. But the thing with Flaherty is I don't know why people don't think he can just do the same thing that he did again last year in Detroit, which I think he can do. Him and Skubal working together is a great combo of, Jack Flaherty's still only 29, so he's not even super old yet, but two, great starting pitchers working together there, a great ballpark to pitch in. And last year specifically, just in Detroit, Flaherty made 18 starts, 2.95 ERA, 106 innings, 133 strikeouts, a 3.12 FIP, and a 0.95 WHIP. I don't think he'll be that good again, but hey, can we expect a low 3s ERA in a great ballpark with some big strikeout numbers and a good WHIP? I think we can. I think Flaherty's finally healthy. Matt and I talked about it for years, the shoulder issues, the arm issues. It just seems like he's finally found at least some sense of health. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to say he's definitely going to be healthy. But, man, if you can grab Flaherty as your SP3, which you surely can, I think you do that all day because the upside of Flaherty with 32 starts in Detroit is honestly top. I don't want to say top 12, but top 20 for sure.
So I feel a little bit different, even though I like his progress. So the one thing, my biggest complaint about Jack Flaherty in his early career was he was a 2-pitch pitcher. The fact that he added the knuckle curve makes things a lot more interesting for him. But the thing I just don't like is the fact that, one, the Dodgers really didn't try to maintain him. He ended up going back to Detroit. And two, you look at, his success last year, and a lot of his pitches were flat. And the only thing that really worked was his breaking ball. But meanwhile, he threw his fastball 50% of the time and 44% of the time. Even though he had a decent batting average with batting average at 254, if it's going to stay flat again, that 254 batting average can easily shift to, 300. And his ERA could be, a 3.86, possibly even that 4 that we've seen over the years. This is his best season by far, except for like that rookie campaign, pretty much. And I feel like he's just too volatile to trust. That's why he's not even in my top 36. At that point, if I'm going to take a guy like that, I'd rather take Freddy Peralta with a longer track record and, someone that's proven. Yeah, he's a little bit more on the sexier side. It's just not for me, but I can understand the draw.
Well, for sure. And that's a solid breakdown on Jack Flaherty there. Like I said, I think the whole thing is that if he's healthy, I feel like the upside on that team is just a little bit higher than somebody like a Freddy Peralta. Because like I said, I feel like we know who he is, even though I love the upside of Freddie. I think I'm just a little bit more enticed by somebody like Jack Flaherty. Might not even be by too much, but you know what? I do love me some Mr. Jack Flaherty going into next year. But Matt, I turn the question back to you. Who do you find yourself targeting here in this range?
So outside of Schwellenbach, it's kind of wild because this my rankings and so does yours. There's some wide ranges of ADP's value and two, who's able to be there. So I find myself oddly enough getting a lot of either Max Fried or Kodai Senga. And Max Fried we spoke about the other day, so I'm not going to get into it. But Kodai Senga, who's coming off an injury, is going really late. and I don't even have to draft him as an SP3. I think he's going to return to glory.
SP 42 right now for Senga,
Right.
pick 133.
Right, and I've been able to get him like late. It's wonderful, and I don't have to pay the high price that I have him ranked for, which you don't do. And you see what it is about. Like last year, he was able to make one start, was absolutely brilliant, and then obviously went right back on the IL, and then looked like an absolute bag of garbage coming out of the bullpen for the Mets. But the talent just doesn't disappear. The injury, I think, was still plaguing him. He was just trying to get ramped up. He was definitely very rusty, and some adjustments needed to make. I want to see what's going on in spring training. I haven't heard any news from him yet. I don't think he's pitched just yet. Remember we record this the night before, so this is February 26th at 9:32 at night. So unless he pitches tomorrow, don't be yelling at me. Oh, he pitched today, but ultimately, I have a feeling we're going to see the beautifulness that is Kodai Senga, and he's just going to be just as elite. A guy that we were going into this last year before the injury popped up as a top 12 pitcher or top 14 pitcher. There's no reason he can't get back to that form of glory if healthy. Dom, I give you a chance to rebuttal, but unfortunately, we're kind of running out of time, so make it quick.
Just quick thought on Senga, just a little bit of the age. He's going to be 32. The whip, it was a little bit high in 2023 when he was an all-star, had the breakout year, his first year in the States. So I think it's going to be an elevated whip. Strikeouts will be there. The ERA might be a little bit high. That's why just a little bit skeptical on him. I like him a little bit more as an SP4 than SP3, but that's about that. So guys, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And after you make us your first listen, go check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB. Make him your second listen each and every day. He's doing a great job over there breaking down spring training in a little bit different way than we are. So once again, folks, until next time.
Peace.